everyone, this week I want to show you Shirley Chisholm State Park in Brooklyn. As you saw with the photos in the introduction, it is hard to believe that they were actually taken in Brooklyn. Certainly not something that you would think of when imagining New York City. The park was opened in 2019, so very recently, and right before COVID-19 forced everything in the city to shut down. Therefore, I feel still not too many people know about this awesome place in the city. And get this, parking is absolutely free. And there is also a bike rental, which I think is also free. I read this somewhere. However, it is not open because the summer season did not begin yet. Restrooms consist of porta potties, which are placed in few places throughout the park. I am never a fan of these, and those of you who have been inside of one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But hey, something is better than nothing, right? So first, the park is named after Shirley Chisholm, who pretty recently passed away in 2005. She was born in Brooklyn in 1924 and had a very prolific career in the government. As you see here with one of her quotations on the back of the building, which stands right at the entrance, "Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth." She worked as a teacher and in the New York State Assembly. But in 1968, she became the first African American woman to be elected into Congress. And shortly afterwards, in 1972, she was the first African American woman to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. On this path, we are walking all the way to the end, where we have a pier. There are always some people fishing or just simply enjoying the views. In front of us is a small strip of island called Rockaway, and then behind it is the Atlantic Ocean, so we are really on the edge of Brooklyn right now. To the left, you can see the John F. Kennedy International Airport, but we will have just a little bit of a better view from the second section of the park. What you see there across the water is the second section of the park with its own pier. And the area itself was actually a landfill. Yep, we are now walking on tons and tons of garbage below us. It's hard to imagine that. So the park is really made up of two sections because there were two landfills. The Pennsylvania Avenue landfill, which is the smaller section, and the one we are walking through right now. And then there was the Fountain Avenue landfill, which was the bigger one. This section opened in the 1950s and it was active all the way up to 1983. About 15 years ago, the landfills were capped and now we have a beautiful park over it. And because there is lots of garbage below us, gas is always an issue, especially methane gas, which is generated from decaying organic materials. Therefore, gas piping is installed underground to bring those gases to the flares to be burned off. And I'm guessing that this right here is one of those flares. Again, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably not a penguin. The same thing with this. There is no information board about it and I had no one to ask, but I'm guessing that this is one of those flares to burn off methane gas and all these other gases. Another one just like it is also on the second section of the park as well. So here we are. I can continue on this path and go straight to the exit, or I can go up this very steep hill to one of the highest points and show you views from up there. I know. Hey, you always brag about walking so much, so get your butt up there. Fine. But you know what? It's worth it. The views are really gorgeous. You know, I'm looking at this video right now as I'm putting it together, and I can honestly say that it really looked better in person than it does on film. There in the distance is the Belt Parkway Expressway, a highway that I always have to take to work. Here we have the Empire State Building in the distance. There is Verrazano Bridge going into Staten Island, which I will soon do a video on. And you also get to see Lower Manhattan with the Freedom Tower. As you make your way to the exit, you come across this wall of rocks, which is used to control erosion and protect the landfill cap below. You see this in some places of the park. If you have such big hills and it rains a lot, the water flowing down has a lot of force and potentially can erode and damage certain areas. And with the landfill below, you do not want to take those chances. So this is one of the methods to help with slowing down the water flow and help prevent erosion. Also, coming out of the park, you can just walk along Belt Parkway Expressway and make a very short walk to the second section of the park. However, I will be honest here, I did not do so on that day because I did not have any more time. But I knew that the next day I had to go back to work to pick up something I left in my office. Therefore, I decided to come back the next day and to show you the second section of the park. But I love the fact that as you drive out above the exit, it does say in Latin, out of many, one. It is a motto which appears on American money, on passports, along with many other locations. Out of many, meaning the separate 13 original colonies coming together and creating one nation after the American Revolution. So here I am, next morning, it's almost 7 o'clock in the morning, and look at the view I have near my office. The worst part is waking up so early in the morning, and I do this in order to avoid traffic and not to waste too much time. But once I'm here, I love it. Many times before COVID, I would just sit here and grade papers from students. But now everything is submitted online, so it's a little bit more difficult to do so. But as you see, the sun is about to go up, and that means traffic because the sun will be in people's eyes. So let's move. Here we are pulling into the second section of the park, what used to be the Fountain Avenue landfill. And this section, I believe, was taking in garbage all the way up to 1985. And at the height, it took more than 8,000 tons of garbage per day. In this section, there's also parking, bike rental, porta potties, and one thing I really love is that all the buildings and structures have beautiful designs and paintings on them. It does provide this really colorful scenery. I think it gives it really like this warm and inviting atmosphere. It is in this section that you have the highest point, so let's go up to see the views from there. And you just know we are about to go on a nice walk once the paved path ends and pebbles and small rocks begin. That is a true sign that you're about to go on a little bit more of a challenging hike. So I was there very early in the morning, just a little bit past 8 o'clock. There was almost no people around. The sun was shining, but still not very intense because it's early. Gentle breeze on my face, it's warm. I just had to sit down, and then it led to me laying down, and this was one of the best feelings I had in a while. But then again, you are listening to somebody who sleeps like 4 hours a night, maybe 5 if I'm lucky, and constantly under pressure. So for me, anything is good to just sit down and close my eyes. I would probably be able to just fall asleep right next to planes taking off. Now, speaking of planes taking off, there in the distance you see the John F. Kennedy International Airport. So if you are into watching planes take off, this is a great spot for that. You can see clearly the paths that the planes are taking in order to land and to fly out of there. And the other thing that you see is the flare itself, which burns off the gases from the landfill that I mentioned in that first section. So now let's walk along the edge of the park towards the pier, and you can just see how beautiful the shoreline is. And it's extremely clean. I have not even seen one small piece of paper, which is pretty ironic that we are actually walking on a landfill. And I have the whole pier to myself. Where to sit? I hope you enjoyed this location and I was able to make your day just a little bit brighter. And I already have an amazing location set up for next week's video. So I hope you come back to the channel and continue following along my journey through the city. And if anyone is interested, I will in the near future make a video of my second research trip that I took in the summer and a video about my journey of becoming a professor here in New York City, so that you get a little bit of a better understanding of who is actually the person behind this channel. But until then, stay safe out there, and I will see you soon.